Hello everyone, my name is Christian, and today we're going to go over a video on what the best settings for Rainbow Six Siege are. Now, as you all know, I don't beat around the bush. I can't really say certain words that I would like to say to describe my content of video in the first minute of the video. So instead, I'll just simply get right to it. So, first things first is in-game settings, right? When you go to general, you know, squad privacy is like whatever, ping, whatever, like yellow pings you should have on. I use advanced metrics. It's not really important. Stun VFX is the first thing that actually does become somewhat important, and that's basically if you get flashbang, it's going to be white or black. Personally, I use white because black is an absence of color, meaning when it fades back in, everything's going to be kind of grayish slash hard to see first, while white is all colors at once, so you're going to be able to see a tiny bit more when it fades back in my opinion. Obviously, it's probably not that big of a deal. Diffuser pickup should be both. I am weird. I use cycle inside camera groups because for me it's comfortable. It lets me sort by bulletproof, default cams, val cams, etc. Drone after prep, you should be using semi-automatic. Throw trajectory, I do recommend having on. It's good against maverick tricking. I like match replays, especially for scrims. Um, and yeah, like that's about it. Text channel, honestly, team is a lot better. Especially for ranked, honestly. As for HUD, I use a custom HUD. So here's where things get very complicated. When it comes to compass, honestly, just like leave it as it is. Load out, like same stuff, but I have health off. The reason why is if I have health on, I play like a pussy. At any, if I'm low HP, I'm not gonna swing something. But realistically speaking, because of how Siege is, health is irrelevant because it's a one-shot headshot game, you know what I mean? So at a higher level, you can't be scared because you're low HP because you're probably gonna hit that headshot against them first anyway. So, I don't know, I just have it off. It helps me play more confidently and not worry about things. Um, all this is default. Like status effects, it's shit that you probably should have on. Critical warnings, like, when you're detected outside. Action reminders is actually just personal preference. I just don't like these to be like filling up half my screen. So I leave them like this. Reticle. So operator reticle is the little dot in the middle. If you play like 4:3 84 or more zoomed in, like if you play really zoomed in, I recommend having this off because that dot is actually gonna feel like it takes up like a solid portion of your screen. It's gonna cover heads when you're hip fired. Um, Everything else for me is pretty default. Like I don't really turn anything off. Environment, it's kind of the same shit. Now, this is also like personal preference, similar to like this, right? The reticle and crosshair. Some people only have the dot. But for example, some people like to turn off the opponent room lights because they think it like is better. I personally don't think that's smart. Some people turn off teammate outlines, teammate icons, or usernames. I used to have usernames off, but I've noticed that it makes it harder for me to call people by their names in scrims, so I had to turn it back on. Because on unranked it was like good because somebody had to learn their name. You don't want that in your like video or stream. Match headers, like whatever, reinforce and pull, all this. I have round number off because I try to play every round the same. I wish you could like turn off the score specifically, but you can't. Score updates off is basically points. I turn points off because it's just useless clutter. If you're a new player, I would recommend probably having that on so you can get free info. But a lot of time when you're at a higher level, you will understand these things just based off of sound cues. Bans is like when somebody gets banned in a game, yeah. And then everything else is like personal preference. So here's where we get to like actually important stuff, audio. So I use hi-fi. Night mode is good if you have like a low budget setup, like audio setup. And let me explain. So hi-fi basically has everything regular volume, right? Night mode has gunshots 3 decibels lower. Um, Another thing like 2 decibels lower, and footsteps like 1 or half a decibel lower. So technically, footsteps should, in quotation marks, stand out more, but they're still gonna be quieter. And honestly, like night mode is not bad, but hi-fi I've noticed kind of helps me like get the most info possible. But honestly, I switch back and forth. I might try night mode later today. So I'll see how that goes. I have my master volume at the top, in-game SFX, obviously music I have down, and menu, voiceover I have high. Um, pretty simple, nothing crazy there. But to get onto the point of audio, one thing I would highly recommend, like I'm gonna go over peripherals as well, real quick, and out of game stuff. First off, try to get an actual like headphones, like not earbuds, because earbuds IEMs can be good, but if you're not willing to spend like $300 on IEMs, you're probably going to get shit IEMs. Um, while if you're trying to go for like 150 or less as a budget, you can probably just get the HyperX Cloud 3s with a Sound Blaster and you'll be fine. Speaking of Sound Blaster, use an external amp. Sound Blaster X G6 is really good. This is what I like all the pros used to use. You're gonna see a lot clutter here, lol. Um, Different settings work. Some people like to have night mode. Like I used to use night mode. I don't use this anymore after I like talked to some pros and saw what they use now. So I just use crystallizer, but if I use night mode, I'd have crystallizer at like 35. Some pros use direct mode, which I haven't tried in a while. I might experiment with that again. I will say in Pro League, this amp got banned in Europe. I'm not sure why, to be completely honest with you. Like, I really don't know why. There's probably some good reason for it, but now people used to Ko-Fi amp. But yeah, have an external sound card like this, and it's gonna be more important than any headphone you get. You can get the best headphones on the market, but if you don't have an amp that actually like lets you drive, you know, that audio into your headphones and give you that detail, it's useless. So the main priority is this and wired headphones or headset. I personally think headphones and an external mic is better, but obviously it depends on a person's budget, right? So, back to the game. That's what I would do for audio. Display, max out your hertz 1920 by 1080 unless you're one of those people who like to play stretched res but with the resolution. I don't think that's good for Siege. When it comes to aspect ratio, honestly, it depend. Like I've talked so much about aspect ratio and FOV with pros. That's absurd. Like I used to change my sense every day. I still like change a lot of settings often, but it's not as bad as it was. The main thing I'll say about aspect ratio is you really like there's no bad aspect ratio except like 1910 and 21 by 9, but it depends on playstyle, right? If you're someone who's more slower paced and you like holding angles and stuff, you will probably benefit more from 1610 5.3 or 16 by 9, maybe 3 by 2, depending on like if you're a flex type of player, like sometimes you play aggressive, sometimes passive. The reason why is enemies move slower on your screen and you see more. You can see drones like at the top of your screen at the bottom, right? While with 4.3 you can't see that as much. Now 4.3 is good if you like taking a lot of aggressive gunfights, if you're the one who always swings. or, you know, you try to play hollows more than ACOGs if you play low sense, right? 5.4 as well, but 1610 or 3.2 is what I tend to run. There is another thing you should take into account, and that's FOV. The reason why I say this is like FOV is absolutely cooked in this game. If you're on 1610, you should use 90, 89, 88, 87, or you have to use 80, or 83. These are the only good ones, because what happens is if you use an FOV that doesn't fit, like let's say 85, you're gonna get ghosted more. Like, the game is genuinely insane. You get ghosted more. For 3T, you can basically only use 86 or 87, which is above like 80. 90 is gonna get you ghosted. For 3, use either 87, 83, or 84. And then it's like 74 or something, so. I just use 1610 90. Pretty simple. Once you get to like 5.3 and like 16:9, it doesn't matter that much because everyone's slow anyway. Like, it's hard to get ghosted, but this is kind of what I do here. Brightness, honestly, I changed my monitor settings recently, so that's why I have it up at 60. I don't know how much I like these monitor settings, so I might go back to the old ones and just like go back to like 55, but that's personal preference. It's gonna depend on what monitor you have and what settings you put on it. Same with like HUD display area. I just like something a little more zoomed in so I can actually like see it, you know. But yeah, this is pretty simple. Graphics, you should have everything as low as possible, except honestly, you should have shadows at medium. I think LOD quality should be at ultra because that helps you see heads a little easier. Check texture quality, it doesn't really matter. Low, medium is not a big difference. Like, I personally do use medium, but not a huge difference. Everything else soft. I used to have that NVIDIA reflex thing, but it's gone now because they removed Vulkan, sadly. So that's kind of what I'm rocking with now. I mean, honestly, with the FPS bug, I might honestly switch to low textures because it's been really bad. I mean, I still got crazy FPS, but not that crazy. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. So, first things first, right? Raw input is most of the time going to be better. Drone speed boost I have on hold. Doesn't really make that big of a difference. I have a multiplier, so divide everything by 5, and that's what you get on 400 DPI. So I'm like 1111, 400 DPI. Now, I'm going to be honest. When you start out, you should play a low sense. Low sense is easier because the target on your mouse pad is bigger, so you don't have to, like, you have more room to flick to. As you get better at the game, you should slowly raise your sense. That was kind of the thing that I was missing when I was, younger and kind of doing all that. A lot of pros take a more simple approach, just like, yeah, I play whatever's comfortable. That also works. It's not a bad thing to change sense as well. Aim is not muscle memory. Aim training is huge. Like I said, I can make a whole nother video on aim training for Siege. Probably would suck because honestly there are better aimers than me in Siege who like know that stuff more than I do. I just know what playlists to use, I'm gonna be honest. But regardless, I'm at 11:53. I have a friend who used to be in Pro League. He retired. He was like a top 10 entry in EU for like 2 years straight. So what he told me was he believes that people should use anywhere from 10 to 12 hip fire and just find like a comfortable sense that they can like track with in terms of like the ADS values. I use a higher 2.5 than it should. So like I have really weird settings. Aim on hold, lean on toggle, sprint and crouch on hold. The reason why is like toggle crouch is just worse than hold to crouch. You can do a lot more with hold to crouch, but it's easier to do toggle crouch because it's lazier. I use ESDF. Keybinds are important because honestly you can just set up keybinds however you want. It's personal preference. Just don't have your lean buttons be on your fucking mouse. Your mouse should be like only gadget buttons for like voice chat or something. Like make it something that actually has to do with like like not your keyboard stuff. Like I don't know, not your movement. Have it to do with not movement stuff. Like you should separate movement from your mouse and keyboard in my personal opinion. I think it's silly to do that. Like have those be together. There is this thing which is like dead zone or whatever. I remember back in the day, what you could do is you could lower it, and it'll like let you slow walk slower. Privacy, you know, doesn't really matter. Accessibility. Keep motion blur on right now because it's bugged. So if you have it off, your screen like will go like almost black. Have screen shake off, honestly. This is personal preference. I think it's a little troll to use like black or like this color, but you know, or white, but you know, not a big deal. Like I said, I use white glare for stun VFX, and the rest is like personal preference. So, honestly, the only thing I got next to say is just get a good keyboard with Hall effect. I mean, I have a Wooting 60HE. Certain things are personal preference, but you should honestly just like look at some like pro that you like who uses the same keyboard as you, like Wooting specifically, for example. And most of the time in their like Twitch chat or whatever, they're gonna have a command that gives you their settings. And you literally can copy and paste the code of their settings into your software. And it'll like copy their settings and then just experiment from there. Like sometimes my issue is I need to change my keyboard settings because sometimes I'll you know, accidentally lean or something. So I probably need to change my settings. Can't lie there. But yeah, I mean, it's always about experimentation. Like I said, just, you know, make sure you have a good mouse, lightweight, good shape, etc. There's a tool being created right now by an organization called 1HP. It's like a medical esports organization or whatever. And they're making a tool that'll help you find like a good mouse shape for you, depending on like your hand size and the tension that a hand has and stuff. So that's gonna be huge. I'll probably I could make a whole video just on that later on when it gets released because that's massive. But otherwise, as for settings, there really isn't much more to go over. I mean, I gave a very quick like rundown of what you should be doing. As I said, if I was in your place, I'd go 10 to 12 hip fire and I just go low, like fucking. If I'm on 10-10, I'd go on like 10-10-32, right? Or whatever. Using a high sense is not worth it in the beginning because you're gonna be whiffing a lot more. With a low sense, it's harder to miss. Like it does become hard to miss. So I don't know. There's really not much other like settings I can think of right now off the top of my head that you should use. So I'm gonna leave you guys with that. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe. Let me know down in the comments if there's a different type of guide video you guys want. I do listen to the comments. I literally made an entire video just based on someone's comment. So, you know, just let me know. I do listen. And finally, have a good day.